You can read as many sales books as you want, but most sales experts will agree that the best way to get good at sales is by being in the trenches, and then also, one, reviewing people's calls better than you, and two, having people better than you review your calls. And so this video is going to be a live call analysis breakdown of me reviewing a call of somebody on my sales team, which is a staple of how we run our sales meetings every single day. We do a call review every single day, 5 days a week. And if you don't know me, my name is Cole Gordon. I have two high-ticket sales teams, or two companies right now that do over 8 figures, about $3 million a month in revenue total. And all of that is on the back of our high-ticket sales team. So all of it is phone sales. And so a big part of us training our phone sales team and then performing at such a high level is doing a daily meeting. And the bulk of that meeting is doing training, be it role plays or be it call reviews. So I'm gonna give you an inside peek at our sales meeting from this morning, where I was doing a call review with one of our closers. I don't do these sales meetings often anymore. I have sales managers in place, but every once in a while, I love this stuff, so I kind of make a guest appearance. So you're gonna see me do a call review this morning, and we're gonna splice over to that now. Peace.
I'll put one in here, and it's just tying on to pretty much what we just talked about. This is Christina. She actually runs her own ads agency. And like the delay was her wanting to try her own ads for 2 weeks. I think I went reasonably aggressive at the end, and I think she will buy next week, or not next week, sorry, next month. But open to feedback on, again, the urgency.
All right, we'll do the end.
Ramp up to speed with your offer specifically. So nobody knows what you do like better than you, period. So like all of those nuances that you know have to come from you. So we don't necessarily train your rep on the offer. We give you a process to follow in terms of what needs to happen week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. And then the other half, the external part.
She's not on camera?
No, she wouldn't turn it on because she was like, I'm just out of the gym and I'm sweating all this BS.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So we continue to train your rep for you. So you and them will have access to our sales training, the 7-figure sales academy. So that's all of the playbooks, the Jabby, et cetera, et cetera. We then have 8 coaching calls a week. Again, 4 of those are center based, 4 are closure based. I'm not saying you guys need to get on 8 calls a week, but you should like get on one to like even just for 10, 15 minutes. We do Q&A role plays, again, it's help everyone get better. We'll do one-to-one call reviews, and we also assign a time manager just for further team training. So
okay, gotcha.
Let me know if that makes sense, or if you have any questions.
Yeah, how long is this whole process like? Like how long would I have you guys on board for?
Yeah, we'll work with you for the next 3 months. And we do a lot of one-to-one support. So in terms of how we help you implement and help you grow and scale the company, we work together one-to-one. So we see our business owners need like 2-3 calls a month on average. You can have more if you need more. We do one-to-one support via Voxer. And so you will have your own private channel, and you will be in there, the account manager and our recruitment team. And you can use that Monday through Friday for any help, guidance, or support that you need. So it can be on like lead gen, it can be on the sales process, it can be on management, it really can be on anything. We get the one hire for you, some calls just for you to help you with at the back end part of the business. And 2 of those are with Cole and Mitchell. And so content with all your lead gen, all your templates.
I'm being ready for it. I feel like I'm like not ready for it yet, but I can see this. Like once I start to run my ads, I'm gonna be like, oh damn, that's what I need. Because I'm not gonna want to sit there and stuff like this.
And she's sorry to overtalk, but she also brought this up. I wasn't surprised that it came up at the end, because like she did like drop it numerous times through discovery, and I could never really get it put to bed, even on the discovery. So it wasn't like it was a fucking huge shock that it came up again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a little bit of resistance, right? So, and dude, like you're like a tenacious, jacked dude, right? And she's like a girl who's, when she doesn't look good, she can't even turn her camera on, right? So obviously, like she's gonna throw up this like, all right, like just let, it's kind of that type of thing. So the way you would handle this, in general, and you might have done this, is just for everybody else and you if you didn't do it, is you never address this in the discovery. Okay, Temple, sometimes I see you doing that, right? You're like, well, actually, like, no, you gotta wait till the transition. Unless it's like a fucking, nuclear bomb, you gotta wait till the transition. Okay, so during the transition, then you're like, okay, now earlier, how you were saying X, Y, and Z. Okay, are you open to a different way? Are you open to potentially a different way of thinking about that? Okay, great. And then you kind of go into the whole spiel. That's going to be the first thing. And then, you're going to retemp check here. Hopefully you get the buy-in on the transition aspect to where when you retemp check in here, you're good. Okay. And then it makes handling the objection a lot easier. I mean, the basic way you handle it, I don't know what her situation is because I just skipped all the way to the end here. But obviously it's like, okay, she's an ads agency. So she wants to run ads for herself and get leads for herself before she does the sales team, right? That's the situation. So right away, I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. Like, so again, this is discovery. We're back in discovery. I'm going to say, oh, okay, cool. So have you tried like building your own marketing funnels for yourself in the past? Okay, great. What did you try specifically? How did that go? Do you remember the metrics of that? Was the CPBC high? Do you remember CPA? Okay. You only spent $2,000, then we shut it off because it was bad quality. Okay, great. Did you try anything else aside from that X, Y, and Z funnel? Now, did you implement that yourself or did an agency do that? Kind of what was the story there? Okay, gotcha. And just out of curiosity, like how long have you been trying to get your own acquisition working for? I mean, how long have you been in business for this business? Oh, okay, 2 years. I mean, so this has been a big priority for you for the last year then. Gotcha. Okay, so you see how everything I just got there? Now in the transition, I'm going to be like, hey, so you know how earlier you were saying this, can I give you a little bit of feedback on that? Like, are you open to potentially looking at that a different way? Well, like, look, like out of agency owners, you've probably heard this yourself, but I'm just going to repeat it. Agency owners, the classic saying is I'm so good at getting leads and clients for my clients, but I'm not very good at doing it for myself. Right. And that's not your fault. That's just, what do they call it? The curse of knowledge in a sense. Like we tend to overthink it for our own business. So while I totally have confidence, like I really do think you're going to figure this out and you have all the capabilities you need. I think if I was you, I would hedge the bets the most in your favor. And what I would do is not only have our help in terms of the sales team, the sales recruiting, the sales training, all of that stuff, but at the same time realize, we went from 0 to over 3 million a month in 26 months. And we've done that on a B2C front and a B2B front, like 50% of our companies here, 50% of our companies here. So with both different spectrums of the market, we're phenomenal at acquisition. And that's one of the things like Cole's not necessarily known for, but like he's definitely one of, if not the best person in the industry at that. So if I was you, let's do the sales training aspect, but let's also give you a helping hand in the initial parts of these things to help you get the acquisition in place. And maybe that means giving you more time. I'll kind of cover that in a second. Let's focus on the acquisition first together. And then we'll already have a good working relationship when it gets to the sales team aspect of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
The key there too is I established that criteria of all these different things she's tried to do in the past, how long it's been going on. Because then if I get resistance, I'm like, hey, can I be super honest with you? And I'm just saying this, especially feminine energy like that, you really need to be like, and I'm just telling you this because I really think you need to know, I really think it's going to help you. And like, I know you are probably looking for good critical feedback and stuff. So, and I would just basically say like, look, like you've been trying to figure this out for a year. I'm not saying you can't do it. You likely have every capability you need to do it. So the question is not, can you do it or can you not? The question is like, what's the most fastest probable way that's going to stack everything in your favor? And I truly believe looking at our experience and all the agencies we helped and how we scaled our own agency, you would be remiss not to at least get some info and some knowledge from us and some help from us as we get into this. And we'll talk about this in a second, but I'll make it so we'll just add on a little bit extra time to your agreement. So we'll kind of create a special arrangement for you, but that's going to allow you to get in, work on this stuff. And then, in 2, 3, 4 weeks, then we're doing the sales recruiting, but at least you had a little bit of input from us in the first place. Like you can work with Cole on this, you can work with Parkinson on this, etc.
Yeah, is that so? Just so I'm super clear, is that what you would have done in the transition, or because it sounds more like
a transition, right?
After.
Because you got to do it. You got to do the discovery is going to be all questions, and then if if I'm asking questions and then like maybe well, what do you think about that? Or I'm going to try to not combat them in discovery. Like you do not want to do that. So like the thing about discovery, this is interesting. I should draw this out, but it's like, if the x-axis, if the x-axis is time and the y-axis is how deep you're going in the conversation, right? Deep relative to the truth. Okay. Well, like over time, what happens is like you go deeper. It just looks like this. Okay. But when you do this thing where you can back them or reframe them during discovery, you're on this trajectory, you reframe and it pops you back up here. Okay. So this is why I hate, like, you cannot do this. In Temple, you do this. Maybe not recently, but I know I listen to calls where like somebody's talking about a setter, they don't have lead flow, and you're trying to reframe them in the discovery. I'm like, dude, just let it fucking go. Because now they don't like you, like they're not being heard. Like you just gotta like flush everything out. And then you got to think to yourself, okay, well, what are the beliefs they need to believe to be true to buy? All right. And then there's going to be some of those beliefs aren't going to be there. Okay. You identify the limiting beliefs. That's what you address in the transition. So I don't do any, like, I don't even think about it like a pre-pitch bullshit anymore. I just think of like, what parts of their thinking do I need to change for them to buy what I'm going to end up pitching them? And that's what I do in the transition. Okay. I mold that during the transition. So the transition, think of the pitch as the golf ball. The transition is the golf tee. Okay. It props up it's a lot easier to hit it 200 yards if it's on a fucking tee. Okay. So, because I know what I'm going to pitch them, right? The discovery is kind of to figure out if you can help them and how, right? So how I'm going through the discovery, all I'm thinking about is what can I pitch this person so that they can buy that obviously also we could deliver, right? Like if what they're going to buy is, Etsy ads, well, we're not going to do that, right? But what I'm saying is like, you're trying to figure out, I'm gathered a bunch of data. And it's like kind of easy when you think about it. I just got to like pitch the thing they're going to buy. Like everybody's like, they're somewhere, they need to get somewhere. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be the perfect pitch for them. Now the perfect pitch for them, sometimes there's going to be limiting beliefs that keep them from buying into that thesis. We break those down in the transition, because if we don't, what we're going to do is we're going to pitch, and the entire time they're going to have resistance towards it. That's what she's doing right now. Does it make sense? So the entire time, you're pitching her and she's like, dude, it sounds so good. I definitely think this is the best thing I need after I do this, right? So it's like resistance. There's not buying into the thesis. I want to create an environment in the pre-pitch, transition, whatever the fuck, to where like I've shaped the beliefs the right way, to where now the only reaction to the pitch is acceptance, not resistance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And like, I think I just try to do too much of what you're saying, like at the end when it should have been, as you said, like pre-pitch.
Yeah. I also noticed, and I'm not saying you did this or you didn't do this, but this is just a generalization of what I've seen. I've also seen very much like you guys say the right things, but you don't say it how I say it. And that's partially because, there is some language differences, but a lot of it is tonality and like the cadence. So like, for instance, maybe you say the exact word for word reframe, but oftentimes like temple, for instance, you'll say it like kind of fast, and you're not varying your cadence. Okay. And it's because you're like trying to like, okay, situation, your brain's thinking like this. You're like, situation. Okay. Here's the problem. Oh yeah. I learned this reframe. I'm going to say reframe. And so you're very focused on like the words you're saying, and you kind of spit it out, and they don't like receive it as if I would have done it. And the reason for that is like the same way I'm teaching you guys right now. It's not like a canned spiel I have where I'm, just like regurgitating lines and that's what's going to work. Right. Like I'm really challenging your guys' thinking, and I'm being present with you, and I'm being like direct. Right. And so what happens when you're doing that is your cadence will vary and your tonality will have much wider range of expression. And so they're going to accept it more. Now, I know this is a little bit like weird, like this is kind of out there, but this is a big difference. Because I think the thing is, like in this situation, you got to challenge her beliefs in the transition, right? You got to build those beliefs, and you might say all the right words, but like you really need to like be with the person, be direct, and like speak to the heart with the person. And that's gonna, your tonality is gonna be a little bit different, your cadence is gonna be a little bit different, and it's gonna feel much more direct, and you're gonna really demand like, hey, we got to kind of like figure this out, because I do think it's like something, I think it's a real problem. You know, so I think like a lot of times you guys do the right things in the transition, but your tie downs on those things, like you get like half buy-in. You get like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And they're like, okay, well, let me get to the pitch thing. Whereas like, I want to get to like, dude, you're totally right. Like, I didn't think of it that way. Like, yeah, you're totally right. Thank you. You know, it's like, I get to a much clearer, deeper buy-in. I know that's a little out there. I don't know if that landed for you guys, but I noticed that.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. And the right way to think of this is not like, okay, well, I need to vary my cadence of my tonality, because then you're going to sound even worse. The right way to think about it is like during these parts where you're reframing, like it needs to be a heart-to-heart conversation. That's like the only way I guess I'm not to describe it. Like it really needs to be like dude, if we can't come to an agreement on this, and okay, so when I say this, I don't mean that you're gonna be like a dick. I'm just saying like it needs to feel like we need to reach this agreement, this milestone, before we can progress to the next milestone. You know, it's like a chain of beliefs, and we got to reach the belief before we can get to the next belief. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, because I just like know, like if they don't buy into it, like I know there's a big belief they need to have the belief to be true to buy, and they either have a limiting belief towards that or they don't have that belief. I know I need to establish that to get them to buy. And it just comes with experience. Like after so many hundreds of whatevers, you know, you just know, you're like, if this person doesn't believe this shit, they're not going to fucking buy. So then you become a little bit more hard ass on it. And not in the sense of like, you're a dick and you're like, well, if you can't believe this, then fuck you. You know, it's not like that. It's like, it's actually coming more from a place of like love. It's like a higher frequency in which it comes from.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, this is helpful.
So Cole,
Good.
in discovery on this, if you would have found out that she didn't try anything in the past, but she did feel confident in her ability to like run the ads through the leads, how would you have asked questions about it as opposed to just like, well, what have you done in the past? And if the answer is nothing, but I know how to do it.
Right away. Okay, gotcha. Well, what's the funnel? Walk me through everything step by step. Now, I mean, what are the funnels that they're likely going to run? Some form of a video funnel, webinar, right, which is the same thing, or a group, right?
Yeah.
Maybe cold outreach, maybe. I mean, that's not what she's going to do, but that could be a method. I mean, I don't know. Like we've kind of done everything. Like we're really unique. I mean, I don't think people realize, not that they need to realize, like, I don't give a fuck, but I mean, dude, there's not many companies out there that we run. We run acquisition profitably at scale on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and IG shoutouts and influencer marketing, affiliate marketing, whatever you want to call it. Okay. All of our paid affiliates we're profitable on. Now that's not a scaled channel, but we do well with that. We run to B2C, we run to B2B. We've run VSLs to both of those. We've run groups to both of those. Like, I don't know anybody. We run the IG shoutouts funnel. I don't really know anybody else who is so diverse in their success of acquisition. You know, and part of the reason, I mean, we do have the best sales training products by far and best fulfillment. You know, I think our sales team's the best, don't get me wrong. But also, like, I would say one of the biggest gaps between us and our competitors is I'm just better at like marketing. You know, I've really tried to train myself to understand these things, you know? So again, what I would do is I would look at what funnel she's doing. Let's say she's doing a VSL, dude, super confident in it. Hey, I think you should be super confident in it. You're really good. I mean, this is your thing. Can I offer you a piece of advice though? Like if I was you, I totally agree. And what you're saying too is like, once you get that in place, you're 100% like wanting to work with us in terms of the sales team stuff. She's like, oh yeah, totally. I'm 100%. Gotcha. So nothing else aside, like you definitely want to do this if you had the leads, double title. Right? Well, look, like I totally think you can crush it with the funnels. But like if I was you, I mean, the exact funnel you're running, we're running to, you know, 2-3 million a month, the VSL. So let's just buy you more time, have you come in now. And then, you know, if something goes wrong or it doesn't convert, you have a safety net to go to so that we can get it to work so that you could eventually get the sales team you want so that you're not on the phones, because that's what you want at the end of the day, right? See what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah.
I like that.
But I think the big thread for you guys is you guys, because like if you're asking that question, it's almost like you're like, well, what do you say, right? And usually my answer is like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think what I do maybe a little bit better than you guys is I default to discovery. So I'm like, oh, okay, like she's like, well, I think I'm really going to be good on the acquisition. I'm going to be good on the funnel. I'm like, gotcha, cool, like that's awesome. What funnel are you going to do specifically? Gotcha. Have you done that funnel before? How did it work? What were the results? Okay, and you're going to be doing this totally, or you're going to be using an agency. So anytime I get resistance, objection, limiting belief, I don't do I don't try to like bash it. Sometimes I will, but generally if it's a new thing, I'm not going to try to bash it, right? What I'm going to try to do is do discovery. And now I have all of this, like they're going to feel understood. And I have all of this criteria to position what I'm going to say in a way that they're going to believe it to be true. Because I want them to accept. It's one thing to like say, like you could do what I said. You could say what I said without the discovery. But if you do the discovery and then you kind of package it in a way that's a little bit more accepting for them, they're going to accept it better. Or they're going to accept it better. Because it's one thing to like, it's one thing to say the right things, but it's another way to say it in a way where they accept it. Because it's not like what you say, it's what they accept from what you say.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's good.
All right. Well, Jared, was this helpful too?
Yeah, very.
Dope. I miss doing this. This is fun. We got 8 minutes. I mean, let's do some more questions because we're obviously not going to get through this call. Typical call review, I only did 1 minute.
So to kind of like close the loop there, because I pretty much done what you said there. Like I think my tie downs were really strong, isolated, tried to buy her time, fucking wasn't budging like for one reason or another. So like this was probably lost in like probably could have went deeper on discovery. She is going to run VSL funnel. She's got decent ad budget and the offer. So she has an agency, and this is an offer where it's like almost like a done with you coaching program for coaches and whatever, but she's at like 50K a month, and she's not I don't think she's stupid. Like she came across pretty intelligent, so I think I could have done better on discovery, and then I think that pre-pitch dude fucking destroyed what I done.
Yeah, well, I would think I think your challenge needs to be more powerful. Like it needs to be, and here's the thing, I noticed this when I was in full-time, is like the biggest reason I would go into ruts is because I would I mean, the definition of a rut usually in like life spectrum is when you're like going through the motions, right? You're playing the notes, but not, what's that?
Not the music.
Yeah.
Playing the notes, but not the music.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is like, you're kind of like just going through, like, that's when people say they're in a slump in life, it's because they're like going through the motions and they're like, dude, like something's not, like, I'm not playing the music, you know? Playing the notes, not the music. So this is what happens with this. Is like, dude, you got 6 calls a day, 7 calls a day. You also got follow-ups. You're also worried about, fuck, I only got 2 calls left. I haven't made any offers today. I got to close these 2 calls. I projected 2. So I also got to look for 1 in pipeline. So you're thinking about all this shit and you're just taking call after call after call after call after call. So what happens is you say these reframes or you say the right things. And because it takes, like, at the same time, your brain is trying to conserve energy, right? It's like, I mean, really like biology, like everything, our system is designed to conserve energy. That's why we store fat. It's harder to lose fat, like, you know, all those things, right? So your brain is kind of trying to conserve energy. So what happens is you say the right words, but that little extra like 10, 20% of energy you need to be super present with the person, vary your cadence, talk directly, and challenge them from the heart. Like that kind of takes some energy because you guys have been there and you get off those calls and you're like tired, you know? I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right? You're like, fuck. And then you got another call, right? So I think subconsciously we say the right words, but we don't like exert that extra 10, 15% of energy. And that's what actually pushes it across the line. Like and honestly, that's what truly makes you a great salesperson because, you know, if you're not doing that, a lot of the people you're going to close just like, you know, they just like the offer. Okay, they buy, right? It was just the right time, right thing, right price, whatever, buy. But when you exert that consistently and it becomes a muscle, then it's like that's when you start getting just fucking crazy ass numbers. You
I
know,
would
but
just-
you're exhausted.
And I was just talking to Temple about this too. It's like the way I've always thought about it is like striking the balance between being like your energy is like, I've done this a million times. So like you're sharp, you know, as like I think Jordan Belfort says, like sharp as a tack. So like,
Yeah.
I've done this a million times, but you're also like, you have that almost like innocence that like, this is like the only person you've ever talked to. Like, you're so present and it's the only time you've ever like said these words.
Yeah.
So it's,
It's the Bill Clinton effect, dude.
yeah.
Josh loved that one, dude.
That was good.
So yeah, whenever I was in a rut, a sales rut, I would like, I always found that like, if I like, cause what would happen is I would get in this rut and I'd be like, wow. And then I would like listen to some, this is also why listening to your wins is really important because you can listen to your shit. You listen to yourself do this shit. So then when you do this properly and you're like, damn, I did go that extra 10 to 15%, you got to just keep listening to it. Because then it reminds you like, fuck, that's what I have to do. Does it make sense? It's like a subconscious thing. And so I would go into a rut, I'd listen to these recordings and be like, oh yeah, it's not like some bullshit fucking language pattern or question. I just need to exert more energy and be more present. And then so I would, because I was in a rut and I was like, fucking A, I'm gonna either hit projections or die. I would just like get really motivated. I'm like, I would go in on a Wednesday, Thursday at 0 sometimes. I'm like fucking beaming with energy because I'm like, dude, I gotta figure out a way to make this shit work. And then all of a sudden I start converting everybody, you know? And it's literally just because, and my closes are like every single one, I'm going in with the expectation. This is how you do it too. You just gotta go in to every close with the expectation of like, there's gonna be a come to Jesus every single time.
Yeah.
You know, every single time. Because what happens is like, there's a, like the call kind of has a crescendo, right? So like if you build up your anticipation to the price drop and then they give you bullshit, if your anticipation was all about the price drop and they give you a bunch of bullshit or an objection, your energy drops, right? That's why some salespeople, like real novice guys, like they'll get an objection and their tonality, like you can ultimately tell they're super pissed in their tonality.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously you don't want to do that. And the way you manage that is I move my expectation of the crescendo, not to the price drop, but to about 10 to 15 minutes after that. So my mindset every single time is I'm going to drop price. I'm going to get some bullshit resistance and I'm going to close them in 10 minutes. So if I set my expectation further, then like, dude, I'm dropping the price and I'm not like, oh, are they going to say like, oh yeah, let's do it or what? I'm going to be surprised if they say, let's do it. I'm going to drop the price. And then literally I'm like, bring it, dude. I'm fucking ready. And also when you have that mindset, because you're like, you're ready to go to fucking battle with these objections, not necessarily you're combative against them. Right. But I'm saying like, you know, you're ready to challenge them out of a good place. If you know you're going to go to that place every single call and you pre-plan it, well, then it forces you to be better in your discovery because you know you got to go to that battle with ammo. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So these are some things I would think about. Like, I think that's a big shift. And dude, it's one of those things where like, you might have heard that before. I had heard it a million times. And then what I would do is I would just forget like an idiot. And then I got to go into a rut. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Like, let me, you know, read my journals. Let me listen. The biggest thing is listen to your calls. And I'm also auditory for the most part. So like, maybe that was my thing, but listen to my calls. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is what you do. And then you just fucking reset and you do it, you know? But a good thing to do is like, maybe create like 3 to 5 reminders before every call that you can kind of like, you know, before you do a call, take 6 deep breaths. That resets your nervous system. You know, 6 deep breaths that puts you in whatever it is, not fight or flight, but the other one, parasympathetic. It puts you in the right place. 6 deep breaths, and which you could do in a minute, right? Don't do this huge bullshit 5-minute routine. Just do like 60 breaths. And then you look at your reminders. It's like, okay, reminder. Okay, great. That's my intentions for this. You go in, you just, you know, do your best, right? Do your best, have fun, try to do the best in the process. You know, leave it all out there, all that stuff. So
Sick.
all right, man. Was this helpful, guys?
Yeah, super.
All right, boys. We'll see you.
See you.